Good morning, I'm Mansura. This recording is a part of the DA1 of the Waste Management course, and I'm here to deliver the presentation on the topic Status of Solid Waste Management in Urban versus Rural India. So let us get started with the presentation. The first point which we have to discuss is what are solid waste. Solid waste includes both organic as well as inorganic discarded materials such as packaging, kitchen refuse, paper, furniture, appliances, paint cans, and batteries. As you can see, I have depicted the examples of bottles and plastic bags, food waste, all those things they come under solid waste. Now we have to know why is it important to manage these solid waste. Solid waste management refers to the systematic process of collecting, transporting, treating, and disposing of waste in a manner that minimizes harm to human health and the environment. So, the primary goal of the solid waste management is to reduce pollution. It is to reduce the disease spreading, and it is to reduce the resource depletion by managing waste responsibly. If we talk about the key elements of solid waste management, the first is collection. Now, collection means we gather waste from different households, industries, etc. The second is transportation, which means shifting the waste to disposal sites or shifting the waste to treatment sites. Then, third is treatment, which means I'm reducing the volume. We need to reduce the volume, the toxicity of the waste to prevent harm. The fourth is disposal, which is the final and the safe placement of waste, probably in landfills or we burn it or incinerate it. So these are the key elements of solid waste management. Now we have to know why do we need to manage solid waste? Why is it important? As we discussed in the goal before, that our primary goal is to reduce pollution. So environmental protection is our first point. And then when we talk about environmental protection, we have pollution reduction, resource conservation, and climate change mitigation. So when we manage solid waste effectively, we also get a lot of economic benefits. We also get to minimize pollution, and this plays a key role in climate change mitigation by cutting down greenhouse gases, which ensures environmental protection, right? And it also prevents the spread of diseases, and improves public health and living conditions in both urban and rural communities. Most importantly, it encourages community responsibility, so which supports long term planning, and it is essential for building a very healthier environment and a sustainable environment for all. So we need to plan in long term so that our future generations can get benefited and they don't suffer a very and they don't live in a condition which is worse than the present conditions. So these are the reasons why we need to manage solid waste effectively. Now, let us talk about the various practices which are used in managing solid waste in urban areas and rural areas. First, let's talk about the urban waste management practices. The first thing which India has adopted is integrated solid waste management, ISWM. So urban centers adopt this ISWM as a framework. It is a framework which combines various methods like waste reduction at source, and then segregation, and then recycling, and then energy management and energy recovery, and then we dispose the waste to a safer place. So this is done to ensure an effective management system. So that is why it is called as integrated solid waste management. This ensures sustainable waste processing with minimal environmental impact. Now, the second point is source segregation and door-to-door collection. So this means the municipalities, they promote waste segregation at the household level, where biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste are separated at the source level, and we go door by door to segregate the waste into biodegradable and non-biodegradable. So that is the second point. Third is the material recovery facilities. When you talk about material recovery facilities, the collected segregated waste is directed to the MRFs. Okay, we have already learned this in our course that the source which is segregated, the way that is segregated at the source, it is sent to MRFs, and where manual and mechanical processes happen to sort this recyclable materials like plastics, paper, metals, and glass. And this recycling process not only helps in resource recovery, but it also reduces the volume of waste that ultimately needs disposal. Then we have other practices like decentralized waste management. So this means some cities are experimenting with decentralized waste management. Um, wherein smaller or localized processing plants are set up. Then fifth is the waste to energy technology. So this means urban areas are increasingly adopting this technology actually to convert non-recyclable waste into energy. So this techniques which are used here is incineration, anaerobic digestion, and pyrolysis, which reduces the volume of the waste. Volume of the waste uh, to put in landfills, etc. Then sixth is sanitary landfills and engineered disposal sites. This is what we prevalently, see in cities like Chennai and or throughout India. Like the example over here, which will be this is actually one of the major a cause of pollution, which we'll be discussing later in the presentation. Now, if we talk about the detail of ISWM, the key components is source reduction. As we discussed before, we aim at reducing the amount of waste generated at the source. So that is why, so that is called source reduction. Then recycling and composting. That recycling means we are processing the used materials into new products. Composting is the biological decomposition of organic waste, resulting in nutrient rich soil amendments. Both methods divert waste from landfills and promote resource recovery. So it prevents waste, and reduces the volume which needs to be dumped in the landfills. Instead of dumping into the landfills, we are recycling it. Then third one is the energy recovery. Certain waste materials can be converted into usable forms of energy through processes like combustion or anaerobic digestion. The fourth is treatment and disposal. For waste that cannot be reused, recycled, or converted into energy, safe and environmentally sound disposal methods are employed. Like modern landfills and incineration facilities, they are designed to minimize harmful emissions and leachate, ensuring minimal environmental impact. Now, moving on to rural waste management practices. In rural areas, we see, they mostly target on recycling organic waste, because the per capita waste generated in rural areas are very low. So the organic waste, they try to recycle it as much as they can. And some of the practices is composting. So composting, which we already have seen previously, that composting means we are generating the organic waste which is generated from the kitchen scraps or the agricultural residues and animal waste, etc. So this converts this biodegradable waste into nutrient rich compost for soil improvement and agriculture. So that is the method of composting. Then when we talk about, and then we have community based waste management systems. Now, rural waste management, they often rely on community mobilization. So there are local self help groups, right, which are established to organize panchayat led which are established to organize waste collection, segregation, and processing. So that is the community waste management systems. Then biogas generation. We all know this. Biogas generation is a popular practice. It is the conversion of organic waste, particularly animal manure and crop residues, into biogas through anaerobic digestion. So that is, and this approach not only manages waste, but it also produces renewable energy. So that was about biogas generation. Vermicomposting is similar to composting. The only thing is it employs earthworms to decompose organic waste more rapidly. So this can be used as the fertilizer, as an organic fertilizer, which increases soil fertility. Then awareness and training programs. Now we need to educate, now they educate members and the community members about the importance of waste generation, about the reuse and the recycling that is essential for the success of rural waste management initiatives. Then sixth is adoption of appropriate low cost technologies. Now in contrast to the urban centers, right, they use high tech solutions, but rural areas they implement technologies that are simple, affordable and locally maintainable. And these include household scale compost pits, biogas digesters, and say basic waste segregation and recycling units. They can be that can be managed at the community level. Now let's talk about now what about the waste which are generated, what about the plastic waste, what about the e-waste which are generated in rural areas. This was about mostly targeting about the organic waste generated in rural areas, but what about plastic and e-waste, right? Now recently we have seen a surge in the uh, we have seen a surge in the dumping of plastic waste in rural areas as well. So, plastic waste is often collected in municipal solid waste or informal waste pickers, right? And local scrap dealers, they pick up the waste and they play a major role in gathering the plastics, etc., which are subsequently sold to the uh, which is subsequently sold to the recycling units, and typically in urban centers, right? Which more organized, where more organized recycling facilities exist. So that and so plastic waste management is done at this level. And there is also limited formal recycling. Like unlike the urban areas, many rural this is how it happens in urban areas, right? So unlike in urban areas, many rural communities they lack the formal infrastructure, like the material recovery facilities which we discussed earlier. So they lack all this to process plastics. As a result of this, the plastic waste may end up in local dump sites or maybe burned, which can lead to health hazards. When we talk about awareness and community initiatives, right? Yeah, so this was about plastic and e-waste, how they can be managed. They are usually managed like this. And some rural areas they have started awareness programs to promote waste segregation at the source. So these initiatives they encourage separating plastics from organic waste, and there are local self-help groups as well, which sometimes they organize collection drives, etc., including plastics. Now when we talk about e-waste, right, now e-waste, see we talked about informal disposal channels. So as electronic products they have become more common in rural areas. So the advent of smartphones nowadays, everybody has smartphones in rural areas. So as electronic products become more common, the amount of e-waste is also rising. But however, due to the lack of specific collection systems in rural regions, e-waste is often disposed of along with general waste. Like so the informal recycling centers or scrap dealers they collect these items, and they sometimes without proper handling expose communities to hazardous substances found in e-waste. Yes, so this is one of the problem as well, that the proper management of e-waste is not, and plastics are not efficient in rural areas. So these are some of the points that I wanted to deliver. Now let's talk about the status of the urban solid waste management. Right now, we talked about the practices of the urban waste management, but we still encounter a lot of problems in India. So what like why? So why is that? So what is the status? First of all, the scale of the waste. In urban areas, according to the Central Pollution Board's annual report, India's urban areas they generate approximately 160,000 tons per day of municipal solid waste. And this underscores the enormous burden on municipal services. And the second point is the coverage and the collection efficiency. Although major metropolitan areas have organized door-to-door systems, etc., but many smaller cities they still face significant challenges in achieving 100% coverage. While some cities report collection efficiencies above 80 to 90%, others struggle, leading to pockets of uncollected or irregularly collected waste. Now, source segregation challenges. See, source segregation, it always remains a key challenge. Why? Because smart cities, they boast better compliance through citizen awareness and incentives. But many urban areas, they report that only 30 to 40% of the waste is correctly segregated. Right? So that is one of the big challenge. Now let's talk about processing and recycling. See, when we talk about processing and recycling, a lot of waste which are collected, they often they are neglected. They are not really processed. The waste that enters the material recovery facilities, they don't really get processed or they recycle. So improper implementation is one of the main reasons of this. And as you can see, I have pasted a few snippets of the news articles I found on the internet. This clip says that with a 20% recycling rate for the huge 68.8 millions of tons of waste produced annually in India, solid waste management is an area requiring much needed development. And if you look at this picture, that overall it's around, this was taken in 2017, and 68.8 million tons is the total waste generated, and out of which the treated waste is only 13.76. So here we can see that either there is a lack of implementation, or there is improper infrastructure which is set even in urban areas. So this is the status of urban solid waste management. When we talk about rural solid waste management, first of all, in rural areas, the per capita generation is low. The rural areas, they significantly generate less waste per capita compared to the urban centers. The waste is predominantly organic. So here they use methods like composting, etc. And the second one is effective organic waste treatment. Organic waste is treated effectively to a certain extent in rural areas, but the problem comes with the non biodegradable waste. Yes. So non-biodegradable waste includes plastics and e-waste, as we discussed before, right? So they lack the sophisticated architecture, the infrastructure which is seen in urban settings to deal with plastic and e-waste. The practice is largely informal, as we saw before. There is no really legal or official ways of segregating. There's no checks. There's nothing. So it's everything is dealt informally here. Like the waste, which is the plastic waste, which is collected by the local scrap dealers, and they are typically burned or they are transported to urban recycling centers. Or the electronic goods, they penetrate the rural markets. E-waste is commonly merged with general waste itself, as we discussed before. It is handled by informal recyclers who may use unsafe practices, which leads to environmental and health risks. Now let's talk about what about the infrastructure and formal systems. As we discussed before, even processing of plastics or e-waste, they because of the lack of infrastructure, only all this is happening. If there were formal systems or if there were proper infrastructures, the extent of this management could be reduced, mismanagement could be reduced, right? So this was about the status of urban and rural solid waste management, especially when we talk about this non biodegradable waste, right? This is another clips of article which I found online. Plastic waste, rural India's trash bomb. The plastic waste generation is on the rise in the country, but there is no separate data on the quantity of such waste generated in rural area. Single-use plastics have invaded the villages where there are no waste management systems in place, right? And one of the senior officials, they say that there is huge gaps in the official reporting of waste generated from rural India. So that means the data which that means the current data of the waste which is processed in rural areas, that data is insufficient. That data is not fully sufficient. It does not cover the entire entire process of collect process of managing plastic and e-waste. So the data collection is insufficient as well. So if we look at the state-wise percentage of villages with solid waste management, we see that the five best performing cities include Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Goa, and Himachal. But the five worst performing states are Punjab, West Bengal, Manipur, Assam, Bihar. So these are the resources that I found online, which I wanted to discuss. Now let's talk about why are these things happening? Why is there such inefficiencies in urban areas? If we see, there is rapid urban growth that has overwhelmed existing waste management infrastructure. So overpopulation, but at the same time, so the generation is higher, the waste generation is higher, and the wage generation is higher, but then there is no proper infrastructure, there is no money which is spent on managing the waste properly in urban areas. Then second point is inconsistent implementation of policies and lack of public awareness on segregation practices. People mostly they just neglect segregating biodegradable and non biodegradable waste, and they don't comply, or they don't act accordingly with what the government says. So the lack of awareness and the negligence by the urban people, inadequate integration of informal sectors leading to loss of potential recycling material. um, yeah, so a loss of potential recycling material, like so this was about the reasons for in urban areas. In case of rural areas, right, in rural areas, informal waste pickers and rack pickers, they're essential, right, but they're rarely recognized, they're organized, or they are supported by municipalities. They are rarely done. Without formal integration, their work remains unsafe and inefficient. So that is one of the point when you talk about rural areas, right? And also, when we say that the traditional management is largely focused on organic waste, non biodegradable waste lacks the structured management framework. And rural India naturally produces mostly organic waste, which is often composed or reused informally. However, with the increasing access to packaged goods, plastic and non-biodegradable waste are rising, they don't have a clear system of collection or recycling or disposal. So that is one of the point. And limited next is limited financial, technical, and human resources hinder the development of proper collection and processing systems. This says, like, for example, many gram panchayats, right? They lack dedicated funds or trained personnel for waste management. Often, waste is either dumped at open sites or buried nearby. So, this poses a lot of environmental risks as well. Now, what can we do to enhance the efficiency in urban areas? So, first is we have to implement the we have to have a very strict implementation of the solid waste management rules that is there, and regular auditing and monitoring to ensure compliance. Then improve segregation. We have to mandate door to door segregation with clear guidelines, and intensive public awareness campaigns and education programs. Then we have to expand the door to door collection coverage and route optimization, right, and establishment of MRFs for effective recycling. Then we have to integrate smart technology, etc. Now I talk about informal sector. Now formal segregation of waste pickers, they have to be organized, right? We cannot always deal with the informal waste pickers every time, so they have to be done formally. Then monitoring, data collection and feedback, implementation of real time monitoring and data driven decision making, regular performance reviews and adapting strategies based on the ground level feedback is also necessary. Then address root causes of inefficiencies. Rapid urbanizations, right, they have outpaced the current infrastructure. So the gaps in funding, institutional capacity, and public participation, they lead to lower segregation and recycling rates. So so we have to bridge these gaps. Then in case of rural areas, as we talked about, we need to empower the gram panchayats and the community groups to manage waste locally using decentralized systems. We have to promote the success stories of community initiatives to serve as models for wider adoption. And we have to continue and improve composting practices to handle organic waste. And we also have to establish small collection points for plastics and e-waste. We have to develop a good infrastructure to prevent them from being mixed with organic waste. And we have to conduct regular training sessions and awareness programs for best practices. Then we have to implement simple low cost technologies like household compost pits which are easily manageable. Then implement integrated waste management strategies, which we studied, which we looked at in the urban waste management. We can implement these in rural areas as well. We have to enhance linkages between rural and urban waste management systems, ensuring that non-biodegradable waste is also handled in proper facilities. So this was about my presentation. We talked about what are solid waste. We talked about why is it important, why do we have to manage solid waste, then what are the practices which are there in what are the practices in urban areas and what are the practices in rural areas. And we talked about why is there inefficiency, why is there gaps, so why is there no proper management, and what can we do, what are the next steps that we can take to ensure better efficiency. So this was about my presentation. Thank you very much.